Till this point, we have been doing arithmetic without saving the numbers in the variable. Let me clarify what is variable. A variable is a reserved place in the computer's memory to store values. What is the definition of a reserved place? A reserved place is an address where data is stored. I am Aditya and I live in India. Similarly, you can be a Leonardo DiCaprio who lives in the US. If we compare this example using Python, in the world, US and India are the variables. And data like Aditya or Leonardo DiCaprio has been stored in that variables. Yes, it is. Simply type in a term or an alphabet. But I'll only enter an alphabet, an equal sign. Right now. You may input anything you want inside this area. All I have to do now is put the value 10 into it. All I have to do now is press Shift plus Enter. Every time I call the variable and press Shift Enter, this variable will make a connection to the data that I've stored inside it. However, this isn't always the case. It can also be a floating point number so that I may execute again. It can also be a string if that's what you want it to be. If you want to accept a string as an input value, you must surround it with quotation marks. Okay, now let me give my name and have a go at it. So, as previously said, assigning variables is simply storing data in the alphabet or word. Let me modify this one more time. I'm going to name a new variable, b, and store integer 1 in the b variable within the code cell. I'll save the number 1 inside it. Let me execute this line of code. Then, I'm going to use a new variable called c in the following code cell, and I'll perform a numerical function within the c variable. But what I'm going to do is combine the data from with the data from b, and then execute it. Last but not least, I'm going to print everything that's in the c variable. Now, I have used the print statement here just to make it look like I'm programming. However, if you simply want to show your output in Jupyter Notebook, you don't have to utilize the print feature. All you have to do is type the variable's name and press Shift plus Enter. This is how simple it is to store value in it. However, there are certain limitations to variable naming. Assume the name of a variable is number. And that I'm going to store an integer inside it and execute it. But what if the name of a variable began with an underscore? Or a letter? In most cases, this would be acceptable because variables should always begin with an underscore or a letter. The letters in your variable name must never begin with the number. For example, it cannot be one number, because that would be an exception to this rule. So, let me ask you this. If I execute something like this and receive a message indicating an error, because as I previously said, a variable name cannot begin with the number. What if you want your variable to contain more than one word, such as, write your name? Let's pretend you're attempting to obtain the user's name using a variable like that. Is it possible to utilize this kind of variable? That's a no-no. Because if I do this, I receive an error notification again since the name of your variable may have spaces between it. Now, I'm not claiming this is difficult. Simply use an underscore between your words to separate them. But, if I do it this way and it runs, there should be no problem. You can't use any other special character besides this. So, to what am I referring? You can't write something like, write / your / name. I get the same error message if I do it and execute. Finally, let me show you something. You let me raise the issue first and foremost, so I'll simply use number in caps lock on for a variable. Any variable you declare is case sensitive, right? So, what exactly do we imply by that? Number in small letters has now been defined as a variable. Number in all caps is also a completely new variable, and it isn't the same one as number here. But you get the idea from my example. We are stating that the case of each letter is important. As a result, even if you change the casing of one single alphabet in your variable, you will receive an error message since your job in a notebook will not be able to find the data you're looking for.